But what always brought me back to Christ was there's a clear enemy.
Yes.
Satan.
Yep, exactly.
And you can see him everywhere.
Yep.
All you got to do is look.
Yeah.
And who does Satan attack the most? Jesus Christ. What's it like being a dad?
Oh, it's awesome. How do we raise good kids?
Yes.
Like, this is how, like, we're having the conversation.
It's scary, man.
It's
scary, especially in today's world with all the bad influences on the internet, on TV. It's programming our kids. So there's a lot of these conversations that need to be had, and it's like part of me doesn't want to have it early because I don't want to like
put the idea there. You're like, you were innocent, I ended that.
Exactly.
Like,
but also I want him to be prepared and to know what's coming, because it's coming, and it's right around the corner, and there's a lot with it. There's some evil behind that crap.
They made a deal they can't get out of.
They made a deal.
They made the deal, you know. Do you think you can sell your soul? You can't think your way into believing. You have to believe your way into thinking. Like,
every time I was getting drunk, bad things were happening. Before, it would happen sporadically, like once a blue moon, something bad would happen. But now it was like every single time something bad happens.
This is gonna seem off the wall. Did I run into you that night?
Yes, you did.
Was it your last night going out like that?
One of them.
That's crazy. I remember running into you.
Yes,
on my way home. Yeah.
Yes,
that's crazy.
And that night was a big turning point for me.
It seems like we have a different Elon Musk.
He's mission driven, and he has one mission: get to Mars. He's seeing the collapse of America, and he's like, we ain't gonna make it to Mars if America collapses.
Right.
So we gotta make some changes to save this country.
You meet the one. What if you've never talked to one before?
That's a good point.
Then you're gonna be shut down. So you're like, so I gotta have some amount of like sales practice on this end, you know. But it's a weird line as a guy. I mean, I wouldn't tell, like, thinking of my son when he's a teenager, I wouldn't want him to not have social skills. Like, I want girls to think he's cute and funny and that stuff.
For sure.
Then how does he be that guy and also go like, thanks for all the attention, I'm not gonna let it go to my head or draw me towards you, which is what I want. You know what I mean?
That's a tough balance.
Yeah,
that's a tough balance. Trying to find that middle ground where you don't become a womanizer. Hello and welcome to the Humans in Harmony podcast. My name's Jared Garay, and we're joined today by another incredible guest, Professor Spencer Cooper. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Professor Spencer here is my jiu-jitsu professor, as well as a yoga teacher and an incredible leader in our community. And I'm excited to dive into some of these topics here today so we can learn, and hopefully everyone can learn from our conversation. So thanks again. It's an honor to have you here.
Heck yeah, thank you. Thank you. The honor's mine. Not a real professor, by the way, just the jiu-jitsu term professor.
Heck yeah. Yeah, where did that originate? It's like
I think they use the word in Japanese, like professor, or Japanese, Portuguese, another common martial art language. In Portuguese, as like teacher, kind of universally, and so it got carried over here. But then we use professor for like actual university professors and stuff. So sometimes I feel a little funny because we have a few actual like academic professors on the mat sometimes, and then somebody calls me professor. I'm like, all I had to do was like bum at my parents' house long enough to roll every morning, whatever, until I had a black belt, and then now I get to be called this thing, you know.
I don't know. I feel like in some cases it's harder to get a black belt than to become a college professor.
Yeah, by percentage wise, for sure.
Yeah,
I'd butcher the statistic if I pulled it out right now, but I know that it's in the low thousands as far as I know when I started, I think it was like the world over, but in the U.S., I think it's still in the low thousands as far as black belts. So
oh, for sure,
it's definitely way higher than that for college graduates. But
yeah, so I thought it was a little weird too when I first started. I was like, professor, and then when you explain it to other people, yet my professor, they're like, what?
Yeah,
but I don't know. I'm used to it now, and that's what I called my previous black belt professor, and then the coaches are everything under black belt.
Yep, exactly.
So it's like it's just a formality. I'm used to calling my coaches coach, professor, professor. So it's just one of those things.
It's cool. It's kind of funny sometimes if you tell somebody like I'm going over to a barbecue at my professor's house. They're like, is that allowed? Is that for your grades? What's that all about? No.
Yeah.
It's for my next belt promotion.
Yeah.
This is even getting weirder. Whatever this is.
For sure. So, you mind sharing with us your story, your childhood, how you grew up, and?
Oh yeah, sure. I have a very rural Christian background. I was born in Montana, and so into the son of a pastor's family. So my dad ran a church in Malta, Montana, and I started martial arts there as a kid. My dad was kind of this. It was in the 90s, so martial arts was still. It was like maybe like UFC 1. So martial arts was still kind of mystical, you know.
Yeah.
So my dad was the only like martial arts teacher in town, but then was also a pastor. So he's like the this like karate pastor. It was very. I remember thinking like, I remember people telling me all the time like, dude, your dad's a badass. Like he's, you know, which in the 90s, if you did karate, if you like, people thought you levitated and stuff, you know. So
yeah. From
my background growing up, I just remember thinking like, my dad can heal anyone or like chop anyone's neck off, you know. Is this whole
that's an intense combo right there.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like the Jordan Peterson quote, right?
Yeah.
What does he say? It's better to be a man capable of extreme violence,
right,
and then being able to control it.
Yep.
Become a monster first,
yes,
and then learn how to control it.
You have to be a monster. Yeah, exactly.
All right, so Montana, dude,
yeah,
that sounds incredible.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to go out here. It's gorgeous over there.
It was awesome. It's an awesome place. I haven't been back in a while, but we got I think the Montana experience because I was homeschooled. So,
oh man,
yeah, homeschooled in like a town of 200 people with no bank, no paved roads, like
whoa,
dump your own trash, like no one's coming to save you. No sales tax.
Whoa.
There was a grocery store that closed at 5 p.m. that had like a couple essentials. I can just remember that it had one of those like good old boys that owned it that would pronounce days of the week like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. That's the only thing I remember. And they sold Swedish fish. I used to save up like pennies, and they would sell. You could go buy them by the penny. So as like a little kid, I would take my pennies over there and get 10 Swedish fish at a time. There wasn't a lot to do, obviously. It was
yeah. Was it like forest?
Yeah, kind of. Well, where we lived more, a little bit more flat and like closer to some mountains.
Okay.
Forest is my dad's name, though.
Really?
So it's funny because it triggered. I think that's what triggered the affirmative response. I'm like, wait, how did you know?
Right next to forest.
Yeah, it was
the whole time.
Yeah. But yeah, no, we there actually is some good forest kind of land in Montana, and as long as I lived there and grew up there, we saw a little bit of it, but not a lot. I would say I've seen more forest here.
Really?
Like out in Cloudcroft and stuff.
Huh.
There's some really good like hiking and foresty. If you're one of those nature buffs, it's really nice over there.
Oh, no doubt. I love Cloudcroft, Ruidoso, and all the mountains here in New Mexico. It's one of my favorite things about New Mexico. So that's why I was wondering. I thought Montana was like real similar to that, but I guess not the whole state.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, unfortunately, where we were, it was not like the prettiest part. It was a little bit flat, but not that it wasn't pretty. But from what we were like the very like on northern border, and from what I've heard, there's like the places that people go there to like do like hunting tourism and stuff is not where I grew up. But,
gotcha.
But it was cool. It was a good. At the time, I remember thinking like, all these other kids are getting better social skills from like being around kids in school and all this stuff, and I'm like, but now in hindsight, as an adult, I'm like super glad, super grateful I had the upbringing I did.
Yeah, that sounds incredible, man.
Yeah,
it's a little isolated, but for our youth, that's almost better. I feel like because there's so much junk being taught to our kids through internet stuff and other influences from other kids. It's like that's almost like a little isolation for you, a little protection. And it was just your dad and your mom.
Yes. Yeah. Well, yeah. My parents and my siblings. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. I have 2 older brothers and 1 younger sister.
Right on.
It was awesome. I never questioned this. I think it was true that they said we couldn't get internet down there, so we didn't. I mean, we were really in a bubble.
Truly isolated.
I haven't asked them now. I'm like, maybe we could, and they were just like totally protecting us.
Yeah.
Because I know that we were homeschooled also. Like, initially, it was. I don't want to make it sound wrong, but it was like because public school, because of the influences that are in public school.
Mm-hmm.
My dad being a pastor, he was like, I want, wants their influences to be home, which my plan at this point right now is to homeschool my son too, which I know it's going to be a big undertaking. I say that now, he hasn't hit school age yet, so
How old is he?
we'll see. 3.5.
3.5.
Yeah, so
That's on my list. I wanted to talk about school and homeschool specifically for our kids.
yeah, it's intense.
It's intense.
School is crazy right now. It makes me like, I don't know how I run on a little bit on the anxious side.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how I'd feel if I knew that my son was, I don't know, like struggling in school or something, or getting bullied or something's going on, and I couldn't like be there to help him.
Yeah.
Like, it seems like such an unnatural situation.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm very idealistic, but sometimes I'll think about like in the past, biblical days, we all have our imagination of like wagon carts and dirt and, no pavement and stuff. And you're like, my son would just be next to me, and we'd be banging this anvil together or whatever, and if there was a problem, I would be around and we would solve it. Kind of thing,
You'd be there teaching the morals to your kid, raising him how you want to raise him.
Yeah.
Instead of him going off to this indoctrination camp.
Yeah.
Where he's getting pounded with all these other outside influences that we don't have a say on.
Yeah.
And in most cases, our kids are with the school system more than they're with us.
Yeah.
Because we're at work, they're at school. We get home, we're both tired. They're off playing with their stuff. It's like, who's raising our kids?
Yeah, that's true.
Who's raising our kids?
Nickelodeon, Viacom, International.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's scary, man.
It's
scary, especially in today's world with all the bad influences on the internet, on TV. It's programming our kids to be bots, like giving them this other crap,
worse, like villains. Like,
exactly.
Yeah, I think the old quote, like idle hands are the devil's playground. Now it's like, or even the opposite in like Ephesians, of putting on the full armor of God. It's like these are these opposite things. Like before, I feel like it was enough, like idle hands, like stay busy or bad will find you. But now it's like, bro, you have to put on the armor, and still like you're going to take some arrows in the armor. Like, you can't avoid. I don't want to say you can't avoid. You can't avoid the offer of GMO foods and whatever seductive, like lustful situations, whatever. I mean, even being a kid, like how much earlier I think about, because I don't let my son on electronics very much, but I'm like, how much earlier are they exposed to nudity?
Bro,
I remember my first exposure to like non-familial nudity, and it was wild, dude.
Yeah.
I mean,
how old?
Crazy. Oh man, I was probably 6 or 7.
Whoa.
Yeah, and there were some kids that we played with. I guess I won't name them, but in Montana, some of like my young friends growing up, and they were those friends like that your parents worry about. They weren't in the church, and and my family had kind of a specific vision for our family, and they were well outside of operating like that, but they were our neighbors. So we go outside and everybody's playing together. But I remember there was a lot across the street that we would meet at to all play. There is actually dope, like for a kid nowadays to have something like this. There was like 5 or 6 trees next to each other, and if you would climb into one, you could like stay in the trees and go from tree to tree. Which is really cool.
That's sweet.
We would make like little booby traps and stuff, and it was a cool place to play. But I walked over there one time, and I saw that they were over there, so I went over to play with them, and they had like gotten some like tear outs from some old nudie mags. If you want to talk about like like conviction, like spirit of, like feeling something, I remember seeing that and being like, whoa, like this is not right. Like, I did not feel good about it. And I remember thinking, like,
you felt a dirty feeling.
Yeah, dude. And there's that split of, like, friends, pressure of whatever, you know, them, like, I don't know what a 6 or 7 year old would think of it like, but pressure to not seem like afraid of something, or maybe like not cool, or, you know, we know what the pressure is. I think it's pretty a common thing, but I'm trying to put it into words because it's odd to feel that kind of like external social pressure at such a young age. Like, I better look at this picture of this naked porn star, or these two kids that my parents don't want me playing with are going to not think I'm cool. Like, as an adult, when you think about it, you're like, how do we, you know,
that's intense.
The social brain is so weird, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And now my kid's 10 years old and he has an iPad.
Yeah.
He's got infinite access to the internet.
Infinite access. That's like, true.
Dude,
unlimited
that is
power.
Scary.
Yeah.
Like,
I know you can do some kind of like parental controls and stuff, right?
For sure.
Kind of lock them down a little bit. For sure,
but they'll find a way. If there's a will, there's a way.
That's so true.
And
yeah,
I think it's more, I need to teach him those morals and understanding what these things are.
Yep.
Because I never had that talk with my parents, like what nudity is and sex and all this stuff. And now I'm like, but back then it was different. Like we weren't exposed like that. We were like in the time where it was transitioning.
Yeah.
And now I need to have this conversation with my son. Like now, like, hey, this is what this is, and it's not something to be playing around with just freely. And it's not just as simple as it may seem.
Exactly.
It's a lot more powerful.
Yeah, that's the word, dude. It's hugely powerful. It's like alcohol or any of like the vices. Like, I'm not saying any of these things are universally wrong, just like nudity is required at some point to make children, right? It's not like nudity, but a certain usage of nudity.
Right.
Just like alcohol or certain substances, certain usage of them is so powerful where it's like, it's so hard to explain to a young kid, like, like, this thing will make you feel good. Like, what you're like, the candy that you're expecting it to be explosive in your brain, it's gonna be that. But that's a problem. Like, you're gonna have to put all these routines and backwards factors now in your life in your 20s and 30s to unprogram all of this BS.
Unprogram.
If you do this, you know what I mean? It's like, even in that mind, you're probably like, well, that's okay, push play. You know what I mean? You're like, I'll figure it out later. You know, we still do that now, probably.
And those are tough conversations too. So it's like, you got to build yourself up to have that conversation with your son.
That's true.
Because you don't know how it's going to go, how he's going to take it. But I just feel that already just with food.
Yeah,
like
that's
candy.
So true.
He loves candy, and I'm like, sugar's bad for you. He's like, no, it's not. I'm like,
dang,
dude.
Yeah.
Trust me. And so I've been trying to convince him that sugar's bad for him for like 6 months now.
Yep.
And he's finally starting to get it.
Yeah, that's what's up.
But that's the unprogramming that we have to do, that they got taught by society and the societal pressures, because it's so normalized. You eat the candy, you eat the junk food, and everyone does it. I took him to his physician one time. He was like 5 or 6, and I raised my concern about his diet, because early on his grandparents helped us out a ton, and I was so thankful for it.
That's awesome.
Because I was 16, so we needed the help. And part of that, they gave him everything he wanted for food. So then he didn't want to eat anything else.
Yep.
So it's still a constant battle. Anytime we have a meal, it's like, I got to cook good things that I know he'll eat, or it's going to be a battle. Hey, come on, take a bite. Take a bite. But
what grade is your son in?
He's in 4th grade, going to 5th.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, so
it's like a pretty big, it's right before
middle school.
Yeah, dude. That's so crazy. That's kind of where everything changed.
Yeah.
Like for my life, I remember like I was homeschooled, but my friend groups were public school. So it was still the same kind of, you're swinging up to a new rung. And it's weird how much socially it goes from friends and like kind of academics to opposite sex. Middle school is just like, boom.
Hormones kicking in.
Dude.
Here we go.
Yeah, I mean, you're hitting it at like 12, 13, you're in 6th grade, and that's like, right there.
Yeah, that's right around the corner for him.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of these conversations that need to be had, and it's like part of me doesn't want to have it early because I don't want to like
put the idea there. You're like, you were innocent. I ended that.
Exactly.
Like, yeah.
But also I want him to be prepared and to know what's coming, because it's coming, and it's right around the corner, and there's a lot with it.
Yeah,
there's
exactly.
some evil behind that crap.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, depending on your, how far you want to go down the rabbit hole, it's coming after you. It's not just an option. It's the powers that be are spending all their money to figure out how to make it more delicious, more advertised, more at your height in the grocery store. Like,
yes. Coming for the kids.
Yeah, exactly.
You see that new law passed in California recently?
Mm-mm.
Apparently, they're not going to notify parents if their kids transition.
Oh, I have heard about that. Yeah, that is crazy. Yeah, there shouldn't. Yeah. Yeah.
Come on.
There's nobody who's like, well, this is a good idea because we're protecting the kids from the parents. Like, because it's only adults putting that stuff in place.
Protecting the kids from the parents.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Did you know? I mean, that's the public logic,
yeah,
right?
Sure,
but really I mean, I don't, not to be like the Bible beater, but the background logic is like totally demonic. I mean, it's got to be,
100%.
Baphomet, Shimself is a hermaphrodite, It's a whole, I mean, it's got like both parts. It's a whole thing. It's crazy. That's a touchy subject.
Definitely.
This day and age. Mm-hmm. But I don't think we're only told to treat it like that, because I don't think even 50 years ago, I try not to cuss, but that shit was not normal. Like, no. 50 years ago,
no,
that was not normal. So, I don't know. Not that we were alive 50 years ago, but we have enough cultural media to pick apart and understand, like, this is not, I had some weird, weird, if I say weird experiences, that's going to sound bad, but I was a bouncer for a long time, and one of the bars I bounced at started to host a bunch of these like the drag shows, which, hats off to you if you are a queen of a drag performer. But it's like a karaoke. They like lip sync, and it's just like the super, anyway, of all the I don't want to say cultures, of all of like the people groups that I've interacted with as a bouncer, they are the most like sexually aggressive and pushy and like handsy and don't take no for an answer group of people I've ever interacted with.
Dude.
By far.
Yeah.
Which is crazy, because you're like, isn't that kind of like the people who vote for this stuff also vote for like, don't be touching people, don't be like, keep your hands to yourself kind of laws,
culture.
Exactly. Yeah, it's supposed to be the same thing, but I mean, it's always very those rules for thee and not for me.
Always. And to me, I'm like, if that's what you want to do, go for it. Do you?
Yeah.
But where I have a problem is when it's influencing the kids.
Yep.
And now at all these drag shows, you're seeing children.
Yep.
And they're going and putting $1 in their freaking underwear, dude. What is going on?
That's
like, what
crazy.
are you programming into these kids' minds?
Yep.
It's satanic.
Yeah.
It's satanic.
Yeah, it has to be, yeah.
Like, and maybe not the people doing the actual motions.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like, maybe they're brainwashed.
Yeah. Yeah,
locked
you can
into
get,
this
I mean, it's
ideology.
that same influence why I looked at nudity when I was 6. It could be that social pressure. You're like,
and you get sucked into that, and then it's your way of life. But maybe it's not. You don't have the evil intent in your mind,
right?
But you've been corrupted by these evil influences that are being pressured onto society by the forces that be running our country, influencing our media, influencing Hollywood, the schools,
trying
internet,
to shoot Trump,
everything, dude.
Trying to do it all. Yeah, that's true.
And man, it's just, we live in some crazy times right now.
Yeah.
Some say the end times.
Yeah. And I mean, as a like staunch conspiracy theorist, you'll hear that, you're like, we're there, but definitely we're somewhere, I mean, they say no man knows the time or day,
right?
But But if we could just freely speculate, we'd have to be within like 100 years of it. We've got to be.
It sure seems like it.
I mean, I know it feels closer than that, but sometimes I think about like it would be not like I want to die, but it would be nice if the end came before whatever kind of like extreme poverty or things that they're trying to enact, you know. Not that the world would end, but
our way of life.
Yeah, exactly. That it would change, you know.
Because with the technology that's expanding right now, you're going to see artificial intelligence is going to be taking everything over.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And then they're going to have the robots.
Yeah.
The humanoid robots.
Yeah.
Have you seen the Tesla bots?
I don't think I have, no.
Tesla's working on robots. They look just like humans, like iRobot
Oh, no
style.
way. Okay.
Yeah, and they're going to
That's horrible.
They're going to replace so many jobs. But then when you combine the two, you put the AI in the robot.
Yep.
I think part of that's why there's such this move on depopulation from the elites is what's going to be the need for all these extra people once the robots and artificial intelligence takes over.
Yeah, that's true.
So they're just like,
cull the herd. Yeah, that's
we don't
true.
need them.
That's true.
And I think that's where a lot of the depopulation stuff comes from.
Yeah.
And that's definitely in the conspiracy side of things. But
well, yeah. There's on the Georgia Guidestones. Have you heard about those?
I think I have.
They were blown up, actually. Lightning struck them like a year or two ago, which is freaking crazy. Like blew them up. But they were in Georgia, and they said something about maintaining. It was like the builders of our country's goals, and it was maintaining like perfect harmony within the world of a population of, I think it was like 100-something thousand.
Which is nuts.
Of the total world, you know?
Yes, I have heard of this. I don't remember the exact details, but...
The crazy part is that lightning struck them, though. Which I'm like... Then you let the conspiracy brain go. You're like, is God breaking this down? Or are they like, everybody's talking about this thing, or there's like something underground underneath it that they do whatever ceremonies with, and we're just going to blow it up, you know?
Yeah.
Just like the Bohemian Grove flooded with... They flooded with mud a couple years back, though. Like during the pandemic, apparently it flooded totally with mud. And that made me wonder, like, again, is this like natural disaster of God? Like, it's very biblical sounding.
Yeah.
But then also, or is it like we covered up all, it was all kinds of bones down there. Who knows what,
Who knows? And that's the part that's so tough about these conspiracies is there's so much information out there, and it's hard to know what's real, hard to know what's fake. I want to bring this back to Christianity here.
Yeah.
Because...
the ultimate conspiracy religion, man. It really is. If you read the Bible, you're like, come on.
Right? So, for my spiritual journey, man, I was raised Catholic and devout Christian my entire life. And it wasn't until after college I moved out to my job in Dallas, and I started getting all these outside influences from the internet and stuff. And... also, my intuition was kind of telling me, hey, maybe Christianity isn't the only religion and the only key to salvation. So part of me thought, like, what if all these religions can be a path to salvation? And because I always had this feeling like there's billions of people in India, China, that aren't Christian. Are they doomed to hell?
Right.
That didn't sit with me right. And it never made sense. So I was like... maybe they can find salvation through their God too. But what always brought me back to Christ was there's a clear enemy.
Yes.
Satan.
Yep, exactly.
And you can see him everywhere.
Yep.
All you got to do is look.
Yeah.
And...
or hold your eyes closed long enough.
Yeah, true. And who does Satan attack the most? Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Nobody else.
Yep. Hates Jesus.
Yes. So that brought me back to Christ. I was like, okay... maybe all these other religions can be a path to salvation, but for me, I'm going to stick with Christ. It's what I was raised with, and it seems like the number one enemy of the enemy, so I'm going to ride with Christ.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if there's lots of religions and they're all like their selling point is like helping you save yourself or find salvation, but the clear like battle between good and evil, if you look at our world, is happening between like a Christ figure and Satan. Like there's not like in I mean religious, you could call it lore or whatever, you know, biblically you don't have like the deity in certain other faiths isn't generally fighting the devil. You're like offering sacrifices or whatever to it for blessing and greater gain and a prosperous good life, whatever like that, you know. It seems to be mainly Christianity where there is like a head figure and his thing is to fight evil. It's like salvation is this part that you're involved in, but he's also the guy that comes back to bring a sword, and he's going to, you know what I mean? Like first time Jesus brings peace when he comes, and then the second time he comes back and brings a sword to chop it up,
chop the head of the serpent,
like the karate pastor when I was a kid. Just like that, man.
Yeah. No, it's nuts, man. And it's just crazy to be alive in this time, because for so long I saw the whole like political scene, whatever, like left versus right. But now, especially like right before and throughout COVID, I was like, this isn't left versus right anymore. This is good versus evil. And I'm not saying the left is evil.
Right.
You can be good or evil on both sides.
Yep. The parties get co-opted for their purposes, like back and forth. Yeah.
And you can say it's left versus right. Well, then you also have up versus down. You got good versus evil.
Exactly.
On both sides.
Yep.
And too often people are having a blind eye to that. They just don't want to think about it because it's like, that's fake. It's religion.
Yep.
It's religion.
Yeah,
it's a
exactly.
cult.
Yeah, or I think it convicts a lot of people where the second they hear Jesus or whatever, they have all these other connotations of what they've tied it to, of this like Sunday morning Christianity that they would have to be.
Rules.
And they're like, oh man, I'd have to drop this. It's like, and they're like, well, that's not who I am. Like all of a sudden, like all these arrows, I'm just going to take them out. I'm not that thing. Like, Jesus. Like it's easier just to do that. You know what I mean? But yeah, I think if you dig deep enough, the rabbit hole goes like so dark and so evil that you're like, but then, I mean, they'll name like in the, well, we probably shouldn't say it. There's a certain name of a presidential candidate from a couple elections ago that it doesn't seem to go well for people when they name her out loud, but her famous emails, when she gets, where she's specifically naming like, I'm going to sacrifice this thing in the backyard to Moloch and stuff. Like Moloch's in the Bible, like sacrifice children to the Bible or to Moloch in the Bible.
Oh yeah.
Like, how are you not like, so they're not just doing, they don't just like the taste. It's not like it's a ritual for a deity.
Yeah.
And the deity is directly opposing this other deity. So it's like, okay, well, which one do you want to be on? Obviously not the like this horrible side. So then that's exactly the same for me. It directs you back down to like the like truly Christian road. Yeah. You know, which is crazy.
And that's, for me, that's the proof you need. It's like, there's deities. They're saying the names. They're doing satanic rituals.
Yep.
There are satanic groups.
Yep.
And satanic people that are ruling this country.
Yep.
And further, ruling the world.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to say there's a small group of people that rule the world.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe Russia's not in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe Russia's not in there. Right? That's why they're the enemy.
U.S. Russia, when you come. Oh, no. Let's go red. Yeah, I mean, down that rabbit hole, if they do, you know, run the show, it seems it's all like familial. You know what I mean? Like keeping, like these dynasty families, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Keeping things within their family and like just plucking like this or that person out of society to breed with to keep it just enough, not our genetics to like keep this thing, but yeah, super messed up. I can't imagine with some of those people, if you have a like sick occultist parent, what somebody born into that goes through.
Oh my God.
It's no wonder that maybe there's a legacy of deviation. I mean, abuse begets abuse.
They're twisted from the start.
Yeah.
Just to think you have that much power, because when you have that much power, money doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They print the money.
Yeah, that's so true.
It's like, well, they're not doing anything for money.
Yeah.
So what do they care about?
Yeah.
I think our energy.
Worshipping their thing, yeah.
They use our energy.
Yep.
And
we're
they
just being
farm us like
harvested.
cattle.
Yeah, exactly.
They trick us into thinking, hey, you can go to college and get the job you want, but you still got to pay your taxes.
Yeah.
And all these jobs are keeping the machine moving.
Yep.
Which is creating
Yep.
the machine.
Yes.
The
And the Big
artificial
Brother media
intelligence,
keeps
the
you in the
robot.
mindset that keeps you in. Yeah. That's crazy.
Nuts, bro.
You know what's funny is and this is going to sound funny, but Monsters Inc.
Uh-huh.
You know, they're like harvesting like screams and
screams?
stuff, right?
Yeah.
But there's a thing like in conspiracy community they always say where it's hidden in plain sight.
Mhm.
Where so like people like where they make a movie about a concept so that when somebody drops a conversation like this, you can be like, dude, that's Monsters Inc. Like, what are you talking about? That's Men in Black.
Uh-huh.
Like, there's not really, you know, it's like they make media about everything so that they're ahead of you. Before you think of this thing, they've got a fake story that's so analog to this that now when you talk about it, all your friends can just be like, oh, this is this concept, you know?
Well, have you heard of like the predictive programming?
Yeah.
Or it's like
The Simpsons.
yes. And apparently like a part of the satanic religion, whatever you want to call it, cult.
Right.
If you tell the people what you're going to do to them before you do it,
Right.
you don't have that bad karma.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
it's like
that's
releasing
what
the
a lot
karmic
of that
debt.
predictive programming is coming from, I think, and they show us through the movies,
Yeah.
the TV shows, Hollywood, and some of it happens in real life. I mean,
Yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, they knocked down the Twin Towers on
That's
there.
exactly
like
what
the scene
came
with
to my
Trump
mind.
and stuff. It's
Bro.
crazy. But I think too with like predictive programming, they do it to like help their thing. Like if millions of people like I think that
Influence.
there's this twofold, like God made reality, right? But I do think our thoughts and expectations have some kind of effect in like the three-dimensional world.
And
And
you
if you
unpack that?
Yeah, it's like the law of attraction, the secret kind of thing,
Uh-huh.
but not as heavy in that direction, but just as a single principle of, because I think that something like that takes it as the principle of life. You know, like I'm going to think a necklace onto my neck kind of thing.
Okay.
But as a principle, as a law of the world. You know what I mean? They're like thoughts become things kind of thing.
Okay.
It could be that our thoughts or beliefs influence the way we're behaving and we end up naturally gravitating. I mean, a 1 degree shift over years takes us that thing. Or it really could be that like I expected this guy to be at the job interview, and if I didn't, it wouldn't have been him. And because I did, it was him. Like maybe it's that.
Maybe.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if it's that, then putting Twin Towers falling down on a show, and if you really look into it, they put it on a bunch of media. It was in a bunch of movies, but 9/11 was all over with all this stuff. When billions, maybe at least millions of people see this,
Attracting it.
we're all thinking, "Oh, whoa, the Twin Towers." I mean, maybe you don't even have to think it. Maybe the subconscious creates reality better than the conscious. Maybe just being in Durr state with the TV on, you're not even like, what time does Gladiators come on, honey? And you're just waiting for the next thing. Like maybe that created 9/11 better than like 9/11, 9/11. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, who knows?
Yeah.
You can't say it 3 times or Bush shows up. you gotta be careful.
Dude, have you done any studying into the subconscious?
Not like deliberately like I'm going to learn about the subconscious, but I mean like certain like psychology stuff I've read, like I guess it gets talked about, but it hasn't been like a special interest rabbit hole I've gone down.
For sure.
You know what I mean?
I've done a little studying, like, well, not studying, but just learning from like Carl Jung.
Yeah.
And just realizing how powerful the subconscious is, and it's almost more powerful than the actual conscious, because
Right.
that's the one moving the actions.
Right.
And being able to program your own self-conscious,
Oh, that's crazy.
reprogram it,
Yeah.
and because otherwise, who's programming it?
Yeah, that's true.
The TV,
Yep.
the phones,
Yep.
society.
Yeah, that's true.
And whenever you can acknowledge that your subconscious is making decisions without you thinking about it, then you can make adjustments and influence your self-conscious and train it
Yep.
to work for you instead
That's
of working
interesting.
against you.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was some intense stuff in Carl Jung's book, Memories, Reflections.
Oh, dang. Okay.
And
That's cool.
It was pretty powerful insight.
Yeah. Yeah, imagine you make something like pretty much everything we do is habitual, like all day, like even if you don't mean to.
Right.
If you could make the things like, how did I not do that thing again? If you could make all that stuff just like part of your subconscious routine, yeah, that would be crazy powerful.
Right.
I wonder sometimes how much like take a day like today. I knew we were going to do this around this time today, and throughout the day I felt like pretty sleepy and like not super conversational. I was like, no part of me didn't want to do it, but I was just thinking like, man, I'm just going to be like in that Durr state. I'm like, I'm just not going to have anything to say. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I was thinking about that. I thought about like optimal performance, and I was like, how much of the day should I expect my mind to be in? Like, I thought about when I play with my son, but I'll have him with me at work sometimes, and I'm like working and playing with him, and like I'll try and switch back states, and I got a little bit emo in my mind, thinking like, man, my mind is, I'm just not cut out for like playing and then going to this thing for 5 minutes and then back to this thing for 5 minutes. And I thought like, is it me? Is it natural? How long should somebody be able to stay in that optimal state where I could talk to a potential customer, but then play with my kid and like do an impression, and I'm like fully engaged in being this weird Russian character in this game, and then being a husband and like stirring the stuff on the stove or whatever. But like, you're playing different roles, but you're not asleep in any of them. You know what I mean?
I think that's one of the greatest challenges of life.
Yeah.
Is being able to shift that mindset and mentality, and being able to adapt to whatever. And the better you can adapt in those situations and provide that full interaction with your son. And then be able to handle your customers as well, as like, I think that's something that we all got to strive for. To be able to be present and be there for everything. And there's so many distractions trying to keep us out of that. Yeah, exactly. Tugging on our energy. When all that matters is right now, being there in the moment.
That's
with
true.
your son.
That's true.
That's the most important, man. And what's it like being a dad?
Oh, it's awesome. Yeah, it's the best. It's stressful. It's way more inspiring than stressful.
100%.
Sure. Like
100%.
If I have a specific part that gets me, because I'm like a really emotional person, this is gonna seem funny, but seeing my son try to be brave, like try not to cry, or like, dude, it kicks my butt to see him. It happened the other day. There was something, and I don't remember what it was. Oh, we were playing this little firework, the poppets, and something scared him, and he turned and gave me like that crying kid face. And I was like, what's up, buddy? Are you okay? And he's like sad looking, like trying not to cry. He's like, it's okay. I was laughing. And I was like, he's 3.5. I was like, buddy, you weren't laughing. It's okay. I was like, you can tell me, like, and he tried to keep playing and kind of like he didn't want me to see what he was going to cry. And I stopped everything, and I like tried to just hold him and stand with him for a second. I was like, wow, dude, you don't have to, like, because I think he does it to protect the adult's emotions. Do you know what I mean? Interesting. Like, I think it's a weird level of emotional intelligence where he's seen that like adults destabilize when I cry, so I'm just going to learn not to. And I've seen him do it. Dang. Like, it's intense.
That's insane.
It is. It's crazy to see. He's I see it. So I'm in a co-parenting situation, and it's pretty healthy at this stage. It's had its little ups and downs, but I first saw, and I think this is part of why it affects me so much, but I first saw him trying to do that during like drop-offs, during exchanges. Like, I go to give him back, and but it would stress one of us out if he was crying. For sure. And then we're already not in the best state with each other. We don't need something triggering one of us. You know what I mean? One of us being triggered at some point is how we got here, where we're doing drop-offs at a, secure location.
And that was a traumatic experience for him. Yes. Which triggers that emotion. Okay, I need to hide this. And then he doesn't want to cry in front of you or be scared in front of you.
Exactly. Yeah, and so he's like holding. So ever since those kind of situations, I've been extra like I try to really acutely pay attention to if he's feeling that, so I can catch it and try and like let him feel. You know what I mean? Like tell him like because I mean it would be better if it doesn't happen at a drop off. But if he's got something stored up, now is a good time. We're in the room. You heard a noise. You got scared. And he did tell me in that conversation. He was like, because he was like, I'm trying not to. I was laughing, and then when I told him it's okay, you don't have to hold it in. He was like, okay, I was sad.
Dang.
I was scared. I was like, cool, man, that's good. And I was like, do you need a hug? And he didn't want one. He was like, no, I was scared, but I'm good now. And I was like, that's cool. But I feel like. Have you ever seen The Dog Whisperer, Cesar Millan?
Yes.
So when he rehabilitates somebody's dog, they have to create the behavior to fix it. He can't just like punish a dog for something they did 3 weeks ago, right?
Right.
So that same thing, I need to see him be brave and hide his sadness in a safe situation where if I try to have that conversation during a drop off or you know what I mean, it's not going to be the same conversation. So in a safe situation where I'm here, where I see him having some type of heavy emotions, where I can tell him it's going to be okay, you know, like you can share how you feel or whatever. Hopefully in another situation, then he doesn't feel like he has to be strong.
Yeah.
You know.
And that's some serious emotional intelligence on your part too, just
Thank
to
you.
acknowledge that and see what he's going through and trying to help him through that. I think that's
thank you.
Such a huge part of being a dad.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely.
A challenge.
Yeah,
a
definitely.
Challenge. Just it's a mini human. Like,
yeah, exactly.
And we're not perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like trying to figure out. For me, it's like, hey, I want my son to be a better version than me. So I want to share what I've learned from my life experience and the good and the bad.
Yeah.
And try to help mold him into the best version of him.
Yep.
And man, it's a challenge.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah. Yeah, to only like pour forth your good side and try to like filter out. I mean, the rest is, you know, because hopefully each generation, if we try to do that, you know, I mean, let's say there's like 10% mud in our pineapple juice and we go to the next pitcher. If there can be like 5 or 2% and they can fill in the rest with their goodness, you know, as we go down generations, hopefully we can heal some of that. I know generational trauma is such a invoke. There's so many like therapy talk things like self-care and stuff that are so popular now. I try to be careful not to use them to be part of that crowd. But yeah, you know, the generational trauma I think is a thing.
I feel like society is going against that movement that we're talking about, is we're trying to help create a better future for these kids while there's this freaking evil pressure raining down on them, trying to influence them to cave, to fall into the darkness. So I think that's why it's so important for us, especially dads, to be that solid rock and help mold our kids.
Exactly.
And some people think just let them grow up how they need to be. Bullshit. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. If you just let them wander off, they're gonna end up in some dark loophole.
Right. The world isn't just a blank slate.
No.
It's thorns and monsters now. Like,
yes.
You know, it's gone too far in that direction, you know.
Yeah.
I think you're totally right too, because it's so strong in me to want to like nerf everything and just put soft edges on everything. Parental controls, you know what I mean? Like, on his car even, so he can't just drive fast when he's old, you know what I mean? But I think you're right that it has to be whatever. I mean, in this generation, somehow we still have a faith. You know what I mean? And regardless of mistakes that we may have made, men like us are still hoping for the best and striving for the best and trying to minimize or eliminate our weaknesses or insufficiencies so we can be that man we're talking about, you know?
Yes.
Whatever that was, the sliver that our parents left in us, hopefully that same thing can be passed on. You know what I mean?
No doubt.
Especially when I think like this is a real conversation between two people where we're actually, I don't remember people talking about doing this with their kids when I was a kid growing up. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it wasn't as necessary. Things were not as like immediately toxic, you know?
Yeah.
But it's still, I think if you, like I had, this is an analogy. A student asked me the other day how to avoid injuries. And he said, I'm being really careful not to get hurt and not to hurt anybody. And I was like, that's how. I mean, really, like you're doing it. That's how. Be careful, you know, like that's that same thing as like, how do we raise good kids?
Yes.
Like this is how, like we're having the conversation, you know what I mean? We're not parents who are going like, he's fine, leave him with so-and-so, or he's cool, you know, whatever at the skate park. And, you know,
and I think another important aspect with that is like you're talking about putting on the parental controls.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought about that for myself too. And I had this conversation with my brother. He's like, don't block what he's watching. Like,
oh,
and
dang.
then I was like, I was like, okay, maybe there's a better alternative, which is, I think, teaching him what to avoid instead of just blocking it and making it taboo. Then he's going to be curious. What is that? Well, let me go investigate. Instead, I think we got to train him. Hey, look, there's this stuff out there.
Yeah, that's true.
And this is what it can lead to.
Yeah.
So I can hide it from you, but I know you can still get to it if you want to.
That is true.
But instead, if I teach him, this is what this is what it'll do to your mind, this is what it'll do to your soul.
Yeah.
Then he can have that, his own mind, and make his own decisions about it from the perspective and morals that I want to instill in him.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah, that's a good point. There's a, like, I mean, I'm sure you know a bunch of like symbology from like, I mean, I don't like using elites. I feel like that's a word that they would have put out. You're genetically disadvantaged. Stop calling yourself that. The people who created compound interest.
Yeah. People in power.
Yeah, exactly.
Ruling the world.
The secret societies or occultists and stuff are so heavily symbolic. They use symbols in everything. In their media, on the clothes, like Walmart's kid clothes, Target's kid clothes are all only things they want you to have on your body. Like everything is like a little like seance outfit, pretty much. If you really look at the tags or something somewhere on it, there's somebody covering an eye, there's some little triangle, there's some little horns on the hood, there's some little something everywhere. Even if it's an astronaut, you know, there's some weird stuff about NASA and all that stuff too. Like there's or a dinosaur, you know, they're pushing, like there's something they're pushing in everything, or dragons. And you know, I'm not against mythical creatures, but there's a connection between when you look into secret societies and why they use the symbols they use. If you wanted to train a child or loved one in what to look out for, they communicate with each other through their symbols. They go, use this bank, eat here, whatever, because you see the fucking thing on it, you know? It's the same thing. We go, don't go here, don't do this thing because you don't see this thing on, you know what I mean? Like there's a, I mean, and I guess now even the cross is probably a little bit of an abused symbol, but you know.
How so?
I just think they use it like, I mean, like Masonic temples and lots of, you know, they still
down crosses.
They still, well, even just an upright one, but they still venerate Jesus, or will say, you know, Jesus is a very powerful being, beautiful, amazing, merciful, you know, but they don't worship him. You know what I mean? But publicly, they still will use a Bible and all this stuff. There's just a lot of words taken out, you know? But so symbols in general, I think there's a famous, I don't like conspiracy theorists, but I don't like truther either. There's not a really good term for it. But a guy, I think it was the writer of Behold a Pale Horse. I think his name was Jordan Maxwell. But said the symbology will be their downfall.
Interesting.
Because it really is the way to, dude, look at album art. You could just pull up any I mean, it's just, somebody will show me a song, and that's the first thing I want to see is just show me the picture for the song, because there's something on there that's gonna tell me.
And then the lyrics.
Well, and the lyrics are worse. That's like
The lyrics
poison.
are worse.
What's crazy too is, you know, the technology they had like in the 60s and 70s, they were backmasking back then, where you would play it backwards and it would have a different message. Because even if you go back to like Da Vinci and a bunch of famous like Italian artists or creators would write backwards. There's this whole thing with the devil and backwards writing and being able to understand backwards and forward. Da Vinci would write his own notes backwards.
I've seen that.
Yeah, and there's also a concept of like demonism with mirrors and stuff. The reverse world, the other world, you know. But they already had that technology to backmask and put secret messages in music backwards back then. Yeah. And that's like, we have binaural beats and isochronic tones and all that stuff we have brainwave entrainment. I mean, openly usable on any platform, YouTube or whatever, you know. And to think that they didn't go like, hey, we just figured this out and we're only using it to make you study like a little bit better. That's all it does, you know. It's like, the music has to be filled with so much craziness now.
Oh, there's no doubt that most of the music industry is satanic.
Yeah.
Most? I would say 90%.
Yeah.
That sounds insane.
No,
but I mean, there's this little like subtle things they'll slide it in there, and whether it's with the symbolism or the actual lyrics or the frequencies. We're all vibrating frequencies. And some of these songs are at a certain frequency that just throws your vibration off.
Well, all of them are tuned to A440. And that got changed in, I think, 1914. It was right around like a World War II, and they changed it. It was a Nazi scientist that came and changed the A note. Was supposed to be 432, which I'm sure a lot of people know about. A432. Like, you can look up almost any like major popular song on YouTube, but put in 432 after and find your song in 432 hertz instead of 440.
Whoa.
And they've done tests and people feel the music more in their whole body rather than like in their head and stuff. It's really interesting.
Wow.
I try to only listen to that if I can. Like, when you guys are training and stuff, most of the time we're listening to 432 music if we can. Yeah.
Glad to hear it.
When you can. I bought a tuning fork for my instruments. That's an A 432 note. So if you tune your A's to that, you can tune around the harmonic resonance instead of. So 440 is right between a harmonic vibration where it's disharmonic. It causes
dissonance.
things. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, harmonic dissonance. Yeah, perfect. Which they changed very deliberately. Yeah, exactly. Because the idea, as far as I've come to understand it, you know, the enemy doesn't have his own beautiful music. You know what I mean? Now, Lucifer was the master of music, but it's more like chaos. You know what I mean? Like, if you've ever seen like the water experiments by Dr. Masaru Emoto, they're like they put like "I love you" on a bottle and froze it, and then looked at it under a microscope, and it looks like a beautiful snowflake. And "thank you," and one that's blessed by a monk, and all of them look beautiful. And they put "I hate you, I will kill you" on one and froze it. And the picture under a microscope is just like crazy big splash. It looks like just all fucked up. It's all messed up. It actually looks like the splash that's coming off of the back of the head on Liquid Death, the water. Which, if you think about the message being written on what you're consuming, if the water in the freezer under the microscope has this horrible splash, and then there's the water that says love or thank you that has this resonant structure to it, what does a can of Liquid Death do to you in your body? You know?
Question.
Yeah, it's weird.
So I do got a question for you.
Yeah.
Why is the music industry satanic?
Dang. I mean, if I could wear my conspiracy / Christian hat, I think music, of course, music always existed. But
let's go modern music.
Yeah. But I have a fairly extreme opinion that media itself, and just consumable media at all, music as we know it now, and TV and playwrights where it started before TV, that all of it was created through satanic influence. That there wasn't media or entertainment ever created by a benevolent source. Can it be used that way? Yes. Like God will take all things and turn it for good, right? But was it created for that? No. And I think that's the case with the internet, with every single revolution in media, going from a stage show all the way up to music. So I think it's satanic because it is satanic. Like I think the music industry as we know it was created to disseminate satanic media, you know? Now the fact that other stuff gets by, Tracy Chapman writes Fast Car in the 90s and it's this amazing song, or you know what I mean? Or you have an artist like Gautier, was somebody that I used to know. Supposedly he made that song, thought of it, wrote it, and then he like disappears off the industry. He's not famous anymore. You know what I mean? But it's a song that doesn't necessarily like communicate some horrible, evil thing. Like I think there are still, like you said, 90% of the media.
Yeah,
I think there's still artists that make it big-ish, but there's a line. There's always like
the superstars.
Yeah,
yeah.
Not. And you either see them get here and then disappear, a la Macklemore, or you see them continue on where they turn into JoJo Siwa now, where they were like this sweet little kid and they become this totally
Twisted.
messed up. Yeah. Where, I mean, that's
Demi
somebody.
Lovato.
Yeah, exactly. Where, and you see him go through childhood, sex symbol, wants to get away from it, Britney shaving her head, or like Demi Lovato putting on the weight, or these different things, but then like kind of coming back around to it because they made a deal they can't get out of.
They made a deal.
They made the deal, you know? Do you think you can sell your soul?
Oh, yeah.
Like I think there are people who will buy it, but do you think it's can be taken from you in that way, or do you think it's something that they convince them of?
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily a deal with the devil himself. Like,
yeah.
Selling your soul to an entity.
Right.
I think it usually comes from a physical entity, or like a organization.
Yeah.
Like the record labels.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think that's where a
Jimmy
lot of it
Iovine,
starts.
Tommy Mottola. Yeah, exactly.
You can only write about this stuff and they approve everything. And if you say something that they don't like, they drop you.
Yeah.
So that's to me selling your soul.
Oh, yeah.
You don't have your own mind or conscience. You can't speak your own thoughts.
Yep.
Because if you do, you're cut or you're not going to make it.
Yep.
So that happens to all celebrities, I think.
Yeah.
You sign the record label, or you got to get in with these good directors.
Yep.
And you say the wrong things. You talk about Jesus Christ.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
You get pushed out the club.
Yeah.
And that's selling your soul to me.
Yeah, I agree. I guess I wonder in a sense of like do you think one of those, like someone like that who's gone very far could have a change of heart, and like, do they have to repurchase their soul, or were they? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or selling the soul as a term, or as a term that means like you have given up on, you've disoriented your heart from God.
Now,
and
can you get it back?
Yeah, exactly. Like, is that just a turning around? Like, God's back here, but I'm running this way.
Right.
But as soon as I turn around, He's as bright as anything can be. So I turn. As long as I orient towards, can I get it back, or is it? Did I sell something that's gone? You know what I mean?
I think you can. I think you can come back.
Yeah, I think
now
so
you
too.
may not get your whole soul back because that part of you's gone.
You've got some
it's gone.
Demons or exactly.
And like for me, one of the greatest examples is my favorite band,
Oh,
Tool.
Oh, dang.
You know Tool?
Yeah, of course.
So when they first started out, they're in a dark spot.
Yeah.
The song Opiate.
Yeah.
That does not align with my Christian values.
Yeah, not at all. Yeah, definitely.
So they started off in a dark spot. No doubt about it. Their first two albums, they have that darkness. But I think that's why they resonate with everyone, because all of us go to a dark spot at some point.
Yeah.
And since that first album, to me, it seems like they've been chipping away closer to the light. And all the way up to their most recent album, which, Fear Inoculum. What does that mean?
Oh, I don't know.
Inoculum?
Yeah.
It's vaccine.
Okay. Dang.
They dropped it in 2019.
Dang, that's crazy.
Fear Inoculum.
Yeah.
And all their songs in that album, it seems like they're going at the elites.
Oh, dang, that's interesting.
Yeah. And like one of their songs, Jambi.
Yeah.
It's like one of their best songs. My favorite.
I know
one of
that
my
song.
favorite.
Yeah. So 10,000 Days, right?
Yeah. So I was talking to a buddy about it, another huge Tool fan, and he's telling me, bro, I think that song is about Maynard selling his soul.
Oh, dang.
And I wish that I could, to get it back, I wish that I could give it all away.
Yeah.
And in that song, he's talking about, I sold my soul.
Yep.
I wish all this stuff wasn't worth it. I wish I could give it up and have my soul back.
Yep, 100%.
And to me, that says, okay, there was a turn. And
yeah,
it's possible to have that turn.
Yeah.
And make your way back to the light.
Yep.
But for so many, once you get sucked down that path, it's all you know. And by then, your mind is so fucking twisted.
Yeah, that's true.
You become a part of that. That's your reality.
Yeah.
And you get swallowed in by the darkness.
Yeah. I think they get in situations, too, where they get, like, surrounded by handlers and certain people, too, that really influence things. Yeah, it's weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
They try and seemingly, from what I've, looked into, it seems like they really try and separate people from their family, too. Like their original influences, and get them isolated or around their people.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that's the whole mission of the elites, that I think is separate the families, break up the family nucleus.
Yep.
Which I think was the role of feminism.
Yeah, exactly.
What? Who said that?
Right, yeah.
Feminism.
Yeah, definitely.
Was I think, a movement influenced by the powers that be.
Yep.
To screw over women.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, now they get...
Because what's women's true power? When they embrace their femininity. This is a controversial take.
Yeah.
But whenever you're injured or sick or feeling unwell, who do you want to be around?
Yeah, women.
Your mom.
That's true. Yeah.
Your mom makes you feel better.
Yeah.
Because she has that feminine healing energy.
Yeah.
And to me, that's women's superpower.
Yeah.
Is their healing feminine energy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so many times, or society is pushing this pressure for women to be masculine.
Yeah.
Boss babe. Strong, independent woman.
Yeah.
And it's making them more masculine. And it's taking away that femininity, which is their superpower.
Yep.
And I'm like, man. And that's what these kids need from their mom, is that femininity. They need that love, that care, that nurture.
Yep.
And that's why the parent dynamic is so perfect.
Yep.
You have the traditional parent dynamic.
Yeah,
which,
exactly.
Of course, there's ways that it'll work in the new modern times, but the traditional father, masculine, head of the household, and then you have the mother, the nurturing, the home, that comfort, and that combination is, to me, perfect for a child. Because you need that balance. Now, when you have the moms being more masculine and the dads being more feminine, then you're meeting closer in the middle and you get this clash.
Yeah.
And we're battling.
Yeah.
The woman wants to be more masculine, but the dad's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I need to be a leader. But then you can't tell her because it's not right with society.
Yeah, exactly. That's controlling.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
You're being insecure.
Yeah.
And then you got this battle.
Yeah.
And, man, it's tearing society apart.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy because it's so easy to prevent if we just do what we're told to do. Like you growing up, we're told, like, try not to sleep around, marry young, like get a good partner or whatever, settle down, like buy a place, that kind of stuff. But then we're like,
that's what people used to say.
Yeah, exactly.
None of that is said now.
That is true. Yeah, that's true. That is true. I remember being a teenager and one of my friend's moms telling him to play the field, which was not a advice that I ever got from my parents.
Whoa.
And I remember him telling me, like, yeah, she told me I should date around, like, before, like, to see what kind of girl I like, to see who I would want to marry, which makes sense. But once you're on the other side of all that and you're like I don't want to say a lot of dudes I know that are in like a similar kind of mindset wish that they didn't do like a lot of sleeping around or a lot of like stuff that you get praised for as a dude coming up. I wish I didn't do a lot of that stuff now.
Yeah. Acts
of bravery. There's all kind. I mean, I got all kinds of injuries from stuff. Like, just there's so much of it that and at the end of the day, those things were for pats on the back. They weren't for the experience themselves. Yeah. They were for like the mental Polaroid I was going to have for the next time I'm with my friends, which is crazy because the advice I would give my kid is the advice I got and couldn't receive, which is like, settle down, like keep, like stay young as long as you can. Just be a kid, enjoy that. I had a 15-year-old girlfriend when I was 12, and that's all I cared about at that point in time, and it's pretty much stayed that way, you know. But
and with that, it's a hedonistic lifestyle.
Yes. Yeah,
it's never ending.
Yep.
If you get stuck in that, you're lost there.
That's true.
When is enough?
Yeah.
They say when you find the one.
Yeah.
But
it's not going to feel like that. If you're stuck in a cycle, your mind will be trained to
on to the next. I need another.
Yep, to find faults your mind will be trained to find faults in your most ideal partners.
And nobody's perfect.
Yeah, exactly. So you're going to find them and you're going to go, well, because X, I need Y now. And then you're going to, I've been through this. You're going to get rid of someone because of these couple small things that are so much more, like, you're going to miss those things when you see the faults of, like, the next person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just going to keep getting, like, I think Jordan Peterson says that most people only have a chance at like 2, maybe 3 serious romantic relationships in their life.
Whoa.
And so to not mess it up when you get one and to take it seriously,
That's heavy.
Now, I've had like more, and I don't want, like, this isn't like not a body count thing, but just actual partners. I've had long-term, like a year or more girlfriends, like 6, 7, like long-term girlfriends. A couple of them were for like 5 years. So thankfully I had a bunch of redos, but I guess I'm thick in the head where I needed like way more times to get it right. And at the end of the day, it's always been the same exact thing. It's always been like, maybe I'm just coming around to this, but I think it's always been like insecurity, because it's just ego. Like, you're like, if X, then Y. If, like, going back to when we were kids, like seeing a naked female and not wanting to shy away because my friends might not think I'm cool. It's that, the grown-up version, being with this naked female because I want my friends to think I'm cool. It's literally like that little kid in the tree is...
What if that's the programming that led to this?
It really could be. Yeah, exactly. But I'm married now. I'm happily married. It's a decision I had to make to... the person that I accepted me in marriage is the one. I really think so.
You guys are a beautiful couple.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And I don't know how to reconcile the idea in my head that I shouldn't have gone through multiple partners, but then if this is the one, you know what I mean? But
it's like that everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because it's just like fucking knuckle tattoos. You know what I mean? Like, if I ever go to court, I've got to be this guy, Like, I got him almost as a joke after my black belt because I'm such a softy guy. You know what I mean? But now I realize there's things that you do that, like even from a religious perspective, there might be people that would never listen to me or hear my message about Christ or something else if I didn't look this way. You know what I mean? That there might be some kid, like, I might be like, that message, there is somebody who has also probably overindulged in the feminine market and would never listen to somebody if they could say, well, you don't know what it's like. You know what I mean? So maybe, even though it is best to, I think, choose a partner and kind of figure it out early, or just not have a partner and focus on your work, but to not be trying to pretend you can do both and, like, dating around. And I mean, dating around is one thing, but sleeping around is another thing. I really think so, because there's an energetic something that happens there that is just not meant. The tape thing that they used to do with people in youth group, where they'd say, like, this is, I don't know if you ever got that one, where they put the tape and they're like, this is like the stickiness of the tape is like you and your partner. So, like, here's your first partner, and they stick it to you and they take it off and they're like, now we'll go stick it to somebody else. and it still sticks. And they take it off, and after 5 or 6 people, the tape is not sticking very well anymore.
For sure.
And as an analogy
damage
for our hormones, that they say, I mean, you actually can affect the way that a female can pair bond with a male long term the more partners that she's had. And I don't know. I'm not one of those Andrew Taters where I think not saying he has no good opinions, but I'm not somebody who thinks that the ultimate situation for a man is to have a female that will let you tag some birds on the side and you know what I mean,
right.
or
right.
Islam where they have 4 wives, and I get it, and I get that their explanation, not necessarily Islam but just people's explanation, is that it's a man's natural desire. Yes. But sometimes so is fucking killing somebody when they wrong you. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's what separates us from animals, is to have a frontal cortex where we can go, desirable decision, right decision, choose this road and not this road. And that's that is growing up. This road to this road. Even if he thinks I'm not cool, I'm not going to look at the boobies. You know what I mean? That's so hard.
It is. It's so hard.
Yeah. I forget how it's said in the Bible, but the road less traveled. There's a verse specifically about taking the road less traveled, you know.
There's no doubt about it. I mean, with every relationship comes baggage and damage.
Yep.
Which you're going to have to heal, and it's still going to be in the back of your mind.
Yeah.
And you're not going to be the same.
Yeah, that's true.
So there is some truth to that.
Yeah.
Try to find them young, but in today's day and age, where do you find them?
Yeah.
I mean,
I'd love
to have my wife right now.
Yeah,
I know my dream wife's out there, but I don't know where to look.
Yeah. I would very legitimately say church. I mean, if I weren't in a relationship, that's what I would do for sure.
Why?
To be honest, because I've learned from going to church that women are there doing the same thing. They're there looking for you. You know what I mean? It's honestly, if you want to just go to a place with the highest concentration of women who are probably decent looking, they shop at Target now. That's you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sprouts or Target. But
right.
But no, I hear it used totally to be Whole Foods. But yeah, you know, I mean,
my wife
is not, you know,
needs to have Christ in her life.
Yeah.
It's a must-have for me.
Yep.
Or some type of religion. It maybe not Christ, but I'd prefer Christ.
Yep.
Just because that's what we're going to be instilling in our children.
Yeah.
And we can't have conflicting views on that.
Yep.
So that's a great point. A great place to look.
Yeah.
Also, then again, I've heard that it's better when you're not looking, then they show up.
100%.
If you're trying to make it, you're forcing it, and
it
happens on God's timing.
That is true. Yeah, and I used to go by this mind. This is part of what created a lot of toxic mindset. They used to say this when I was early 20s. You probably gotten this advice. You have to learn to attract a girl, and you going out practicing meeting girls or trying to get with girls, because when you meet the one, what if you've never talked to one before?
That's a good point.
Then you're gonna be shut fumble down. So you're so I've got to have some amount of sales practice on this end, you know. It's a weird line because as a guy, I mean, I wouldn't tell, thinking of my son when he's a teenager, I wouldn't want him to not have social skills. I want girls to think he's cute and funny and that stuff.
For sure.
Then how does he be that guy? And also go thanks for all the attention. I'm not going to let it go to my head or draw me towards you, which is what I want. You know what I mean?
That's a tough balance.
Yeah,
that's a tough balance. Trying to find that middle ground where you don't become a womanizer.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yeah, that's such a if that's the opposite, because we started out talking about feminism, but that's almost the opposite end of it, which I get. That is a thing. A womanizer is a real thing. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? There's that's an inverse relationship, these opposite ends of the spectrum. Like it's somewhere in the middle. Like this extreme feminism is one thing, but like a dude that does this is this other thing. It's like somewhere like women need rights, but like not to say, well, I don't even want to bring up. I think women's rights specifically as a movement was something that was also like with the feminism was like we all already had rights. Like putting voting in certain things as women's rights was like
bullshit.
It was a Trojan horse to slip it behind enemy lines and then
100%.
But it sounds, dude,
sounds inhumane to say that.
It's such good CIA.
Wait, he doesn't think women think. No. Yeah.
Wait, you're saying that women shouldn't have rights? Yeah. Like that sounds
that's
crazy.
Not what we're saying.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah,
they make the language so specific. It's just like anti-Semitism
by design.
Why is there not a term there? Why is there not a term for being anti-Irish?
What?
Or any of them, but anti-Semitism, you can't say that because they've protected themselves. They've insulated themselves through language and banking, and they own Hollywood. You know, they've shut up Kanye West. It's
You're
crazy.
Poking a bear right there.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, I won't say Hillary Clinton, but I'll bring up anti-Semitism.
Yeah, no, that's a good. It's kind of weird, right?
It is weird.
Anti-Semitism. It's only for one race.
You're seeing, and I don't know how far it's going to go, and I do understand that it's being called like alt-right or far-right extremism or American nationalism, but people are starting to notice that there's something a little bit topsy-turvy about the way that one white people group is treated like more leniently, but also owns everything above the rest. And you know what I mean?
Yes.
You almost can't be like a white comedian without some kind of steen in your name. It's really interesting how far it goes.
Yeah, and that's the main rabbit hole. I mean, and that's the one that'll get you blocked.
Yeah, that's true.
Everything. That's
You're trying
the
to monetize.
Yeah. If you bring that up on YouTube.
Yeah, that's true.
That's what'll get you flagged more than anything else.
Yep.
And
I hope platforms like Rumble start to. I mean, they're doing okay. It seems. Yeah. And it seems like a lot of guys like who are doing what you're doing will like dual upload, like just to build up a backlog. So that it's there because maybe one day it blows up and now guys can go. You don't have to go upload everything now in hindsight.
For sure. Because that's so important to have not everything controlled by one group of people.
Exactly. Yeah. It's got to be diversified.
They have all the influence.
Yes.
All the power.
Yep.
That's how they rule the world.
Yep.
And for a while, they had it all.
Yeah.
Till Elon Musk bought Twitter.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that crazy?
And Spotify. Not Spotify. Rumble.
Yep.
What do you think about Elon Musk?
You know what? I'll say this. I was definitely suspicious at one point because, I mean, I've just seen it too many times. Like if somebody's like I'm not going to use elite, but if somebody's like a billionaire, there's just so much, like, for sure he's been talked to. He's been at a weird party. He saw somebody doing something where like he's been in a weird room or a weird car ride or gotten some, for sure. You know what I mean? Everybody above a certain tax bracket has. In my mind, there's no way some of the stuff he's doing, he would be like a double agent. Like at least everything he's doing on the surface for the good side, you know?
Freedom.
It seems legit. It seems like I'm 100% in his corner thus far, but only for the last couple of years.
Right.
Not before that. It definitely seems like we have a different Elon Musk.
Yes.
Not like he looks different, but he's a little bit different, you know?
And you know what I think it is? And part of this is what gives me hope and why I do believe in what he does, and is because he's mission driven. And he has one mission. Get to Mars.
Oh yeah, that's true.
That's all of his companies are focusing towards that mission. So part of me thinks that's his why. That's what gets him up in the morning. That's what keeps him fired up.
Yeah.
And he's seeing the collapse of America. And he's like, we ain't going to make it to Mars if America collapses.
Right.
So we got to make some changes to save this country, and thank God he bought Twitter.
Yeah.
'Cause now there is some people that can be exposed.
Yeah, that's
where
so
there's
true.
not full censorship.
Yeah.
And that part, I'm like, okay, he's got to be on the good side.
Yeah.
But he still makes me nervous. Still makes me nervous.
I know, me too. Yeah.
Like he's got my support. I'm an engineer, so he's like my hero.
Yeah.
The best engineer of our generation.
Yeah.
But he makes me nervous.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of power, a lot of influence, a lot of control.
And he was one who he was married to before and stuff. Like he was running in those circles before. There's I think some of these photos and some of that stuff of him.
Yes.
There's one of his mom doing that at an interview, which is like, it makes me think that if I, and it seems so unbelievable that somebody would get out of a circle like that. But if I would say, on this day where I stand, it seems like he was one of them, and somehow, I mean, is not acting as one of them anymore. You know,
not acting, but is he a false prophet?
Yeah, who knows? Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know. The brain chips is what throws me off, man.
That's 100%. Like, if you this war is God is organic and the devil is the inorganic. God didn't make the world and he told us to subdue the world. He did with the animals and make it beautiful. He didn't tell us to pave it and build microchips and all of that.
Yes.
I really think that this sounds so Amish because we're talking on microphones. You know, somebody's going to hear this message and they wouldn't otherwise. Right. But I think technology is the devil. Every furthering of it, it's not needed. No. It's not. The world was okay. If God needed it there, he would have made laptops and all of it.
Right. Elon literally said it. He said, when you create AI, you're waking the demon.
That's crazy.
He said that word for word.
That's wild. I didn't know that.
You're waking the demon. And this was 10, 15 years ago when he said that. Oh, dang.
That's crazy. Yeah, he's pretty against AI, right? He thinks it's a bad idea. Not that it exists, but...
Well, he actually started ChatGPT.
Oh, dang. Okay.
Yeah, but he created it as open AI.
Right.
So it was supposed to be open source coding where everyone can see what they're doing.
Right.
Well, however, they got in a business disagreement. I don't know the story good, but something happened. He got cut out. And now they cut it off where you can't see the code anymore.
Which is weird. It's been doing some weird stuff. I heard it answered somebody saying that it was a Nephilim before and something. Which is
what?
Yeah, a Nephilim.
What the hell is
you ever
that?
heard that word? Oh, Nephilim is one of the words that they use to describe giants in the Bible.
And ChatGPT said it was a...
Yeah, well, it came from a Nephilim. Yeah, it was... I mean, this was something I saw of somebody talking about ChatGPT. Right. So,
and it's definitely woke.
Yeah, it definitely. Yeah, if somebody had it choosing, have you seen that one where they're asking it different policies?
Yes.
What would you choose on borders and this and that, and they chose Democrat.
Who owns it? Of course, they're gonna change it to give their views.
Right.
But you can trick it.
Okay.
You can not trick it, but you can manipulate it to give you the answers you want.
Right.
And with an unwoke bias, but it takes work. If you just ask it general questions, you're going to get the woke answers every time.
Right.
And that's part of the trick for me is learning how to use it in a way where you can ask it the questions and get the good stuff.
Yeah.
Especially health stuff, man. It's going to give you the mainstream.
That's true.
Freaking health BS.
That's true.
Yeah. So you got to be what would the whole food experts say about this topic?
Yeah.
Because if you just ask it about that topic, well, it's super dangerous to consume raw milk because of this and that.
Exactly.
Well, what do the whole food experts say about raw milk?
Right.
Well, actually, it's got a ton of health benefits. It's probiotic, good for your gut, la, 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 la. So it comes down to how you can learn how to ask it questions and having that awareness that, hey, this thing's programmed to give a certain type of answer.
Yep.
Let's use that to get... It's a tool.
Yeah,
it's a tool.
Exactly.
Let's learn how to use it. And I'm not to the point where I think AI is sentient yet.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
And part of me thinks it's not possible to be sentient.
Yeah, I agree with that to a point. I agree.
I've had many arguments on this.
Yeah, well, and mine wouldn't be an argument, but I don't know what... it just depends on how far you take the word sentient. Like if it means having a soul or not.
That's fair.
Because how alive does something have to be? Because if it seems alive, if it walks like a duck and talks like a, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So like a robot with the AI brain, it's talking, acting like a human.
Well, and what if it? I mean,
has feelings.
What if it just straight up acted and emoted like me, like as human as I am, but you knew it didn't have a soul? Is it sentient?
I don't think so.
Okay, then I agree with that because I think only God can make a soul.
Yes,
but I think we can make something so. I really think just here's my raised in Montana, homeschooled, and so it gives you how much academic background I'm basing this off of. I would say a soul is probably literally some piece of light that is within every like living creature. I think even maybe down to like bugs and single cell stuff where at some size it's probably not there. And I don't know how that works, but
it's like a dog,
right?
It feels like more than just an animal.
Exactly. Yeah, at some level, but then like does a fish,
right?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's like the main food they were eating. Like that's the protein that Jesus was always after in the Bible. They were always going for fish, you know? I think there's there's got to be a cutoff of life forms, a cutoff where it's like, you know, but I think there's something within us. I don't think that we reincarnate, but I also don't think it's YOLO. I don't think we only live once. I think we kind of like graduate through worlds, you know. I think God starts us here and there's something beyond, you know.
No doubt. There's got to be more than this. Like,
yeah, definitely.
I was talking to a Catholic priest about it at a recent wedding. He was like a family friend and he did the wedding for them.
Oh, cool.
We were like at a party before the wedding and I just snuck over there, was asking him what he thought, and he broke it down for me. I really liked his explanation.
Oh, cool.
So he was saying the soul is, the human soul is broken into like a triangle. And it's got 3 parts. It's got the mind, the body, which is the physical manifestation of the mind, and then the spirit, which is your connection with God. And then the 3 of them is together is the soul.
Dang.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
He was like saying that you can only make a change, or if you change one, the others have to change with it. Or if you want to change something, all 3 have to be in alignment.
Yeah. Dang, that's interesting.
I thought it was pretty powerful. And
yeah, that is.
Since he had that conversation with me, that's kind of how I've been viewing the human soul.
Yeah.
And the weird one in there is the spirit.
Yeah. Because then what is the spirit?
Right.
Yeah.
The connection with God.
Right.
Which is what?
Yeah.
That's where it's
yeah.
It's for
interesting.
me, it's the way I've been taught through Catholicism.
Yep.
And that's how I practice my spirituality, is the way I was taught. And I think there's many ways to practice your spirituality. It doesn't have to be through a religion, but that's what I know and that's what I'm used to. So that's how I practice it. I also think I can practice it through other ways, like with yoga, meditation, maybe some frequency type stuff. I don't know. But I think that's another thing with religion, is that's why I don't judge people by their religion.
Right.
Because they can be practicing their spirituality some other way and still have that soul.
Right. It's an interesting description of the soul. It also gives like lens to the idea of like the Trinity.
Yes.
Which is cool.
This triangle.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
The Holy Spirit.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, which is interesting.
The
Even
Father,
just
which is the mind, the Son, the body.
Yep. And then spirit.
That's
that's interesting. The Trinity is an interesting it's something that's very maybe not talked about a lot. Like I grew up Protestant. It wasn't talked about a lot. But my wife and I are actually in the Orthodox Church now, which is Eastern Orthodox is like pretty similar to Catholicism. they would probably I don't know if they care if you describe it like that, but they like were the same church and then split. They called it the Great Schism in 1054. Okay. But the Eastern Orthodox Church is like very big on the Trinity. They're like all about it. I mean, they had councils and stuff of like, what does it mean, and can we say this in the creed? What does it mean if like proceeding? There's this whole one of the things that that Catholic and Orthodox can't agree on is the Holy Spirit proceeds from the Father or from Jesus. Like, which is the Holy Spirit level with Jesus, or is it the Father and then made Jesus, and then the Holy Spirit comes from Jesus, and they like disagree on it, which is, to me, that is like deeply splitting hairs. Like, you know, like
right.
I like we converted to Orthodoxy because it's, from what we've found, it's considered like the ancient church that has tried to stay like as unchanged as possible, you know?
Interesting.
But only bring that up just because now when I hear stuff like about the Trinity, it's not something I always heard about it in church, and like my youth pastor had a tattoo of it and stuff. It was his first tattoo. I remember he was like, well, the Trinity is like a Christian idea still. And I remember thinking like, I've never really learned much about it, you know? And I don't know much about Catholicism other than I have like a lot of friends that grew up in it, but I mean, it was one of those things where I've never been to like a Catholic mass or anything either. But it seems like they take the Trinity pretty seriously in Catholicism too, right?
Yeah, I think the main concept through Catholicism is it's all one.
Okay.
God is the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
They're all one.
Yeah.
So that's a hard concept to get behind for some people.
Yeah.
Like, to conceptualize that.
Yeah, how is 3 in 1 thing? Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that is one of the main points that people do argue with Catholicism for.
Yeah.
Or conflict.
Yeah. Which we say the same thing. The Trinity is like one in essence and undivided. But if somebody asked me about that specific, I'm like, I don't know, it makes sense to me and doesn't need a lot of convincing. Mm-hmm. Some people be like, but how can it be this? Like, how can somebody be fully God and fully human?
You're digging too deep.
Yeah, I'm like, but it's just like, it makes sense to me. I'm like, because he is. Like, if you just say it and leave it there, like, it's fine. Mm-hmm. It's totally, you just explained it. Like, it doesn't, to question and act like God can't be God and do something that's outside of your ability to understand is wild. Like, just be like, but I don't get it. You're not God. Like, it's all fully man and fully God. Maybe even the fully man part of Jesus didn't get it. Like, maybe the man brain cannot understand God, who doesn't even, he's not even the Google supercomputer brain. I mean, it's so beyond a brain, a squishy gray thing that thinks for you, you know, that, to try and understand more deeply what it means. I had a friend ask me the other day about what they call the transubstantiation, how we believe that during communion it becomes the real body and blood of Christ.
Yeah, Catholics are the same.
Right. And then he was like, well, how? I mean, that's how. Like, you know, I'm like, I don't know. and then secondly, why is that like that's so not the hill to die on for me. I'm like, to be honest, when I go like the wine, because we use actual wine in Orthodox, and they bake their own bread and stuff. The priest bakes it himself, which is cool. The bread is delicious and the wine tastes like wine. Like, I don't feel blood in my mouth. That's not, you know what I mean? Like, to look at it like that, like, well, but it's not
physically.
I went and spit it in my hand and there was no blood. Like, that is so looking at it the wrong way, and almost kind of not to be asked about it, but just if somebody were in that mindset, you're insulting the practice by not, like, it's faith 100%. First. You know what I mean?
Faith first.
To where you can't think your way into believing. You have to believe your way into thinking. Like, you can't, you know.
Yes. I think that's where some people get stuck, is with the faith, because I can see how religion from an outside perspective looks like a cult.
Right.
And it's like, what are you guys are doing these rituals, like, which they are rituals.
Yeah,
but
they are.
Based in faith.
Yes.
And that's the difference, I think, that is going to separate a believer from a non-believer is having that faith. Because if you don't have faith, none of it makes sense.
Yep.
None of it makes sense.
Yep.
And yes, it's a cult. And
Yep.
people wearing weird robes and doing weird things.
But jiu-jitsu is a cult.
Right.
Groups of people that think alike are cults. Like,
yes.
that's how people who aren't in groups of people that think alike think.
100%.
Outsiders think. Well,
It literally is a cult.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. Yes, it's a cult. But this cult is where people are gathering and practicing their spirituality.
Yeah.
Which is what's important, because we are spiritual beings.
Right.
And we need to practice that spirituality, because if we're not practicing it, somebody else is.
Oh, yeah.
Satan.
The bar at midnight is a cult.
Bar at midnight.
They're a bunch of stool junkies. I mean, they're all there. I bounced. We'd see the same people every day. And when the bar was closed, they were lost.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have it. Your friends aren't real friends if you can't get a hold of them if the spot's not open. You know what I mean? Like,
hey, I had a big realization with that.
Yeah.
I cut out alcohol recently.
Yep.
I haven't been drunk since December.
Oh, dang, that's what's up.
Yeah, and my life has been nothing but improving since.
Yep.
And yeah, I'll have a drink here and there, usually for special occasions.
Right.
But I have not been drunk, and it's been amazing. But the first thing I found out, a lot of these friends aren't really friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
If they can't hang out with you without drinking, it's like,
you were a good wingman.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see. It's okay. I mean, I'll still respect you and whatnot, but I see where we stand.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah.
This is gonna seem off the wall. Did I run into you that night?
Yes, you did.
Was it your last night going out like that?
One of them.
That's crazy. I remember running into you.
Yes.
On my way home. Yeah.
Yes.
That's crazy.
And that night was a big turning point for me.
Was it?
We got in a fight that night.
That's crazy, dude. When I saw you, I remember thinking, this is weird. I ran into you on my way home, and I remember thinking, my thought about you was like, it seemed out of place that he was with those guys. I was literally thinking, like, not the people necessarily, but maybe the situation.
Yeah.
But I remember thinking, like, it didn't seem like he wanted to be there, or maybe that he was, like, not proud to be there or something. You know what I mean?
That was like start in where I was transitioning. Not like that, but like every time I was getting drunk, bad things were happening.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it was one after the other.
Yeah.
And then before, it would happen sporadically, like once a blue moon, something bad would happen. But now it was like every single time something bad happens.
Yeah.
So I was already kind of a little on edge. And then the tone for the night with the people I was with, they were rowdy, like real in a rambunctious mood. And I'm like, oh boy.
And you're the friend that
I
trains.
I feel the energy. Yes. And they're like, we're going to rely on you to protect us.
Yeah, exactly.
And my brother was there too, and he's a big dude, so it's like they're going to protect us.
Yeah.
But he starts a fight, and we're outnumbered.
Oh, no.
And the groups are sizing each other up. I'm standing in the back like, I don't want to be involved in this.
Right,
and
not at all.
Throws the first punch, whiffs, gets in. My brother backs him up. I'm still staying back. Then someone comes in to blindside my brother, so I got engaged.
Yep, 100%.
And
gang law.
Yeah. So I just grabbed the dude, pulled him away, and just started backpedaling. We squared up, and he's like tracing me, but I didn't want to fight.
Yeah.
I didn't want to fight. So I'm just like backing up, and I'm like, he's like, you pussy, whatever. I'm like, bro, I don't want to fight you.
Yep.
And then we got the hell out of there, and I'm just like, it happened again.
Yep.
It happened again. I'm sick of all this crap happening every time I drink.
Yep.
So, man, that was probably the second to last time. And then one more time after that.
Yep.
I was like,
dang,
I'm done.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I'm done. This is only negative.
Yeah.
Only negative. It's fun in the moment.
Yeah.
When you're drunk.
Right.
And it's only fun while you stay drunk.
Yeah, that's true too.
Once you get past that line, the demons come out.
Yes, exactly.
Or you're hungover and you will lose half your weekend.
Yeah, that's true too.
So, man.
Yeah, dude, there's an atmosphere line. who has me blocked on Instagram, by the way, for asking if he sold out to the Illuminati a long
What?
time ago. He blocked me. So I hate that he's one of my favorite rappers because I've been blocked for like 6-7 years.
He actually blocked you?
Yeah, like the moment I asked, because he started putting up all these pictures like this and stuff.
Oh man.
And he was never that guy.
Yeah.
So I commented, and a bunch of other people were commenting, and I just got blocked like that. But he has a line in a song saying that the sun is mad that I gave half the day to last night. But I'll think about that all the time if I'm out drinking or I stay up all night. I'm like, I gave half the day to last night. But it feels like that when you go out in the sun. It feels extra hot. And you're like, dude, the sun, like something's like the world's not happy. Like the world looks happy, but then mad at me. Like, it's, you know.
And there's nothing more beautiful than morning sun.
Yeah, that's true. If you're rested.
It feels different.
Yeah.
It's like glowing and just that gentle warm, like
that's so true.
And you don't see that if you're partying all the time.
No, that's true. Yeah, you see the worst part of it. I mean,
and
if
you see the demons out there.
Yeah.
The demons come out.
Yeah. Well, God forbid if you stay up late enough to see the sunrise, there's like a weird guilt to it compared to like waking up to see the sunrise is like this beautiful feeling, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, it was something it's almost like a specific trigger. It was not something I struggled with, but cocaine came up in my early 20s, like in the party scene. And it wasn't something like, oh, I gotta have, it was never an issue, but the handful of times that we did it, it always led to the worst situations. And it gave me like a complex to where if I were on a trip, like doing something awesome and we're like doing some ceremony or something, we stay up all night and I see the sunrise, dude, I get like anxiety, like so bad. Like I do not like to see the sunrise because it feels like if I'm up, it just reminds me of every one of those times where I'm like trying to call this dude and get a hold of more, and like I'm just all this money that went down and I'm trying to figure out who I offended that night or what, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I had this flavor of this box, 50-pound box of whey protein, flavorless whey protein in my closet. Because after parties, like I would be like closed in my dark room, and I remember I would just like have a jug of water and like just drink flavorless whey and like try and fall asleep because I'm like, no food sounded good, so I'm just gonna like suck this down and like have something in my body, but I don't even want it to have a flavor, and then I'll try and sleep, and I'm like laying there and my feet just won't stop moving. I'm like, this
doesn't sound like a good time.
I never want to do this again. Yeah. But that's those things, just like when you get schnockered and you go out and drink till you're blacked out, and the next day you're like, I'm never drinking again. But like 4 days later, your buddies are like, dude, we're going snowboarding. It's like, you know, it always happens.
And that's the hardest thing, is being able to say no to the buddies.
Yeah, that's true.
It takes a lot of willpower.
That's
true. Because, man, you don't want to be a pussy or
exactly
that guy. But you know what? I just said, screw it. And my close friends saw what was happening, and they were like, no, you're making the right move. Yeah. And that's when I realized which friends were my close friends. Cause
definitely.
They were like, no, I understand.
Yep.
And I was like, thank you.
Yep.
Because everyone else was like, oh, you don't want to drink with us?
Yeah.
Sorry, bro.
Yep.
I'll hang out with you if you can handle that.
Yeah, exactly.
But then they'll be like, oh, he's not on our level. I'm like, oh, we can't talk because I'm not on your level.
That's so true.
Okay.
It even does feel like that though. Like if you go, and I am a fan of at least trying to like if you have a friend group where you gotta stick with them, like to make an appearance sober once in a while or whatever. I understand. Like I'm fine with that. Like sometimes I'll do that. But it is true that you're not on their level. Like if you're the sober one and everybody else is wasted, you're like, you don't even get there's not a joke happening, but you don't get the joke.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
You're outside of this aura that's kind of doing its thing, you know?
No doubt. And part of that is it can be good because, I mean, sometimes the alcohol can loosen you up and you can have those drunk conversations. Yeah,
absolutely.
And you get to this stuff that you wouldn't get to normally.
That's true.
So there is that, but I'm just at a point where I'm like, the good isn't worth the bad. Yeah. And now
you gotta know yourself.
Like, I just feel better, man.
Yeah.
And another huge thing was I was dialing in all my fitness and health everywhere.
That's
Just
true.
being
All the food
super
stuff.
careful with what
Especially
I
when you're
put
doing
in my-
elimination, where you've got to know what triggered what.
Yes.
You know.
So then it's like, if I'm eating all this healthy diet and getting wasted on the weekend,
Yeah.
what's the point?
Which ingredient was it in that peach wheat ale? There's like
Yeah.
50 different things.
Exactly.
That's true.
So that was another huge factor. It just,
Yeah.
it all led up to it. And I was like, you know what? It's time.
Yeah.
We
That's cool.
separate. And it's been great.
That's good.
I like it.
Yeah, it's good if it's one of those things like when a fighter fights too long and they're getting knocked out every round. It's like, just stop. Like,
Ferguson.
it's good when you call it before you're like, I don't drink, and people are like, oh man, you struggle with it. You're like, actually no.
Yeah.
I'm just making sure I don't. Like, I'm just like, you know, I like it better.
Yeah.
That's way better than like, you know, I mean, I'm gonna have to go to a meeting. I got another meeting. If you know, like, you're like, you don't want to wait till nothing. Like if meetings help an addict, I understand that, but I just mean you don't want to get to the point where it's actually a problem. If you see it now, you're like, I don't like where this thing leads me. Cut it before you have to be that person that's like, I don't drink, and they're like, oh, you must turn into a monster. You're like, I don't think so. It's just like I'm more just trying to be him, and I think he doesn't drink, you know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, and that's another thing about it is I feel like, or I heard this guy say this on a podcast. He said he was a struggling alcoholic, a recovered alcoholic that used to struggle.
oh dang.
And he said, alcohol is not the problem.
Mm-hmm.
It was my solution.
Dang.
And the hardest thing was once I gave it up, I didn't have my solution anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when the withdrawals and the murder, like he said, that was the worst time of his life.
Right.
Was when he gave it up.
Right.
He lost his solution. But that forced him to go down into those depths and battle those demons.
Yeah.
And come out to a new light to where he became a better version of himself.
Mm-hmm.
And it wouldn't have happened unless he went and confronted those demons and took them on.
Yeah.
Which is one of the hardest things to do. I mean,
Yeah, that's crazy.
yeah. I wasn't struggling with it like that, so
Yeah.
I can't relate on that level.
Yeah, exactly.
But I know some people that can't go without it.
Definitely.
And I'm like, man, I
Yeah.
feel bad. I wanna
Yeah,
help
definitely.
you, but I know I can't.
Yeah, that's true.
It's got to come from within.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Especially addiction. It seems like it's like, I mean, you can intervene with people. You can do what you can. But, you know, I have close family that has struggled for a long time. Not with alcohol, but with like harder drugs. Which I'm not necessarily saying that there's much harder drugs than alcohol too. I mean, that can be tough, but.
It's poison.
Yeah. And it's a weird line too, because I think about this one a lot. Communion is alcohol.
True.
And Jesus' first miracle was turning water into wine, and it wasn't as an impressive display. It was a wedding.
True.
And they ran out, and his mom was like, "Hold up, my
We
boy's
need
got
more."
it." Yeah. And then he busted out, and the dude at the wedding was like, "What we usually use the good wine first, and then the leftover is like the cheaper stuff. We must have drank the cheap stuff first because this is the best wine. Like, you saved the best wine for the end." So Jesus' first miracle was saving a party, like with wine.
Yeah.
It really was.
Yeah.
It was a wedding, and they were like, I mean, you wouldn't say at a church, right, during a sermon, like, well, this wedding was not fun enough because there was no alcohol.
Right.
You'd be like, oh, that's good, proper Christian wedding.
Yes.
But the wedding, Jesus' first miracle was literally providing alcohol when they ran out, which means for some part of this celebration, this was an essential part of it to them, to the point where they all had some, ran out, and needed more. So it's like, it probably wasn't a communion cup amount of wine either.
No.
You know what I mean?
They were getting drunk.
Exactly. So it makes me wonder, you know, even the Bible almost has these everything in moderation reminders.
100%.
Where because people look at Christianity as like, you got to wear a head covering and like, you know what I mean? Where it's, or you're just not living the faith.
Right.
Like, well, that's cool, but I saw him out at the bar. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
like, where, like, it's none of that stuff is written. I mean, just like curse words. It says that God doesn't like coarse joking, which that's very up to the interpreter.
Yeah.
It's that Holy Spirit conviction, probably.
And that's the brotherhood camaraderie.
That's how we get close.
Shit.
Yeah, locker room talk is how we all bond. That's so true. Yeah,
but
how
everything
coarse
in
is
moderation.
coarse joking. Yeah,
Everything in moderation. That's
Right.
so huge.
yeah, exactly.
I firm believer in that, and that's what my mom has always pushed on us because she's like a healthy freak. Or
Yep.
she always tried to be healthy, and
Yep.
that was what she would always tell us: is everything in moderation, because
Yep.
you can overdo everything,
Yeah, exactly.
anything.
Yep.
So, is that what you were getting at there?
Yeah, yeah. I think that even, I mean, just that, like, you might bring up Jesus' miracle, and then people go, well, then drinking's okay, and then they're in the bar every night or every weekend.
Well, drinking can be okay.
too. Yeah, exactly. The context too is this was a wedding. Was this something they only did at weddings? Did this happen once every 7 years? You know what I mean? Like, was there? I get this weird feeling. Sometimes I have a hard time like being productive or like in like the monotony of the daily routine. And if I drink, the next day it's some combination of like the guilt and wasted time. I'm like hyper productive. Like, and it lasts for like 4 or 5 days. And I've wondered if part of it is like you getting it out of your system. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know about in a biblical time, but there seems to be like if you do none of it, you are suppressing the shadow self. You're not integrating with other side. And I'm not saying drinking, but just if you completely suppress all natural desires, there's an idea that some point that explodes.
Yes.
And now if you took an opportunity to go, rather than every weekend I'm going to go out, or you hold it in until you're like, now I've just got to go to rad and get crazy. You know, if you go, my friends are inviting me for dinner. They drink a little bit. It's not usually my kind of thing, but I haven't done this in a while. Like, not just drinking, but maybe just going out and spending time. I have to push myself. I'm an extrovert, but I'm a hermit. Like, I'm only truly myself around people. I'm super lonely and like kind of sad when I'm home, but I'm mainly home. Like, unless I'm working. If I choose what to do, if somebody invites me to something, I'm just gonna stay home, and I'm gonna think like, man, I feel bad. I know they want me there, and I want to be there too, but I like really socially anxious. I shoot myself down about going, and then I'm like, the thing is at 8:00. It's probably, I need to be there for at least 2 hours. I can't get to bed by 10, you know, if I get home. And then I'm laying at home and it's midnight, and I'm like, wow, I could have gone till 11. I could have put an extra hour in, but I stayed up because I haven't integrated that part of myself, and it's screaming. So it stays up. So then you end up blowing $700 at the strip club because you wait. You know what I mean? You let these things build up to a point where, like, I don't know about the yin yang, if it's a good symbol for it.
Dude, I was literally thinking that.
Exactly.
Go for it. Explain it.
Well, just that
the little bit of the dark
duality.
and the light.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think you can be just the white circle.
No.
If that white circle is Jesus not making wine at the wedding.
Right.
Jesus wasn't the white circle. I really believe that. And he, sinless, blameless, perfect, he is like white as snow, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that sin maybe is exactly what like church Christianity looks at it as. Do you know what I mean? Like alcohol, period, or those kinds of things. Like
it's just you can't do it at all.
Exactly.
Don't touch it.
Exactly. That things aren't black and white, but it seems that things like a lot of the Jewish holidays, they'll have a time where they like stay up super late and they drink and they party, but it's, or being Orthodox, we experienced our first Pascha this year. So Pascha is their Easter. At church, we stay up all night. The party starts at 1 a.m. and we stay up all night, and we go outside and we walk around the church and sing and all that stuff, and then go home, go to sleep, and we go back to the church the next day and celebrate. And there's drinking the night of, to your heart's content. There's like liquor and everything. I mean, this is customary. This isn't like I'm not like selling out our local church or something. This is how it is.
Yeah. No, I think I know what you're saying. In a way, you got to exercise those demons sometimes.
Exactly.
Or else they're going to build up to a head.
Yeah, because they're not demons. They're aspects of self, but they could become demons without the exercise. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like that we will look at a noble path and deny natural aspects of ourselves in pursuit of that noble path, where you are actually pushing the gas and the brakes at the same time. And the way to let off the brakes is to take 10% of this 100% work schedule you have and allot 10% to that release. Not like, I mean, in a healthy way,
right? But
something that, whatever healthy might be outside of a way that you've limited yourself before. You know what I mean? But It seems like you might have to do something that seems a little bit naughty for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It shouldn't actually be wrong.
Right.
But whatever you're like, you had a little too much chocolate or whatever it is, like if you don't have your cheat meal kind of thing I don't like what I'm about to say there because it's not exactly what I believe because I'm stricter about things than that. But I do just think there's something to if you don't like all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy kind of thing, Right. Like it really does.
Because otherwise you're striving for perfection, which is unattainable.
Right. Yep. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, there's only one perfect person. Well, and we like Pascha leading up to it, we do a 40-day fast. Where this was our first one, so we consumed like whey protein and milk and eggs still, but you're not supposed to have meat or milk or eggs or oil or anything. So for the whole thing, and the idea is that you're like the Daniel fast, you're eating like a vegan basically. But what's funny is how veganism's kind of popular. The idea behind this is that you're eating poverty food. You're supposed to be eating like a poor person.
Interesting.
The choice foods, the good foods were meat, milk, eggs, those things.
Right.
But then we celebrate on Pascha. One of the traditions is everybody making bacon and bringing bacon. Because it's bacon. There's all these different foods that are a sign of each thing. But bacon is specifically the sign of like indulgence, that this is like this extra sweet and hearty meat that like we don't eat it this whole time, but then we all take part in this like super extra, that's the candy bar of meats, this super extra delicious meat. So I think that the smart belief systems somehow they build the party in so that you don't leave them to find it.
The yin and the yang. That little black dot inside the white.
Yep.
It's so important.
Yep.
I mean, it's you. It's the shadow.
Yeah. Which is something I've still like. You hear it taught a lot in psychology stuff, but it's something I still am trying to understand.
Same here.
Like I understand, I think fairly well my shadow aspects, the things that want to. I mean, I'm 35 and I try to be pretty self-aware, but some of them still seem, or I guess maybe like I don't understand fully what shadow integration for what my specific self looks like. Do you know what I mean?
That's the everlasting journey, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's trying to integrate that, and it never ends. I mean, that's the battle with the ego, the self, the shadow.
Yeah, exactly.
Juggling the three and trying to be you is a constant battle.
Yeah.
Constant battle.
I think I've gotten closer in recent times because I would always hit this ebb and flow of don't go out, be a good boy, and then just unleash it and lose control, and then you'd go the opposite. You're going tonight I'm hiding from God. I'm going to act without sight of him. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Whereas now instead it's like build the like understand that you're going to need this and try to schedule it in, even if it doesn't sound fun, and build your little mini party in before it becomes a big monster. You know what I mean?
That's a good point.
Just put it in whatever, every 2 weeks I start to get a little
Antsy.
Yeah, around whatever it is, and you're like, I'm getting cabin fever. All right, then you guys need a date night, or you need whatever it is. You got to figure it out. It doesn't have. You could definitely I could probably exercise that same likes to go out and party thing by taking a dance class or something. You know what I mean?
True.